Hello everybody, good morning and welcome to the United Stand. This is your latest Manchester United news as Erik Ten Hag apparently says Cristiano Ronaldo can go. Effectively, Ronaldo is up for sale. The timing of this is ridiculous. I will get into that. Also, we've got one thing I was going to talk about this morning is that a lot of people keep saying to me, you're very biased, Goldbridge. You're very biased. You won't criticise Ten Hag on anything. We know you wanted him as a manager, but you can still be critical whilst also backing him. Which almost sounds like many things I've said over the last few years, that you can be critical about things and still support them in the endeavour to improve. You can't just sit back and say, I back him, everything's fine. So, look, you'll get a bit of that this morning because I find this ridiculous. So, I mean, there's credibility to this story. I'm not going to lie. It's coming in from the Telegraph. It's coming in from James Ducker and I think another journalist at the Telegraph. So it's well sourced. And basically it says that having wanted to keep Ronaldo when he was first took over the club, Erik Ten Hag will now not stand in his way if a good offer comes in. There's many strands to this bow, but I think the thing that jumps out to me is that the reason we need new owners and the reasons we need new structure is because of things like this. Why is this coming out the day after the Manchester derby? Is it a deflection tactic? Is it spin? Is it the old Neil Ashton thing again, where a story comes out to deflect away from a shit result? Because I tell you what, if United are still doing that sort of stuff, and I thought they'd stopped, that is very, very frustrating because we're years into this now. It might have worked 5-6 years ago when you have a bad result and then the next day you say you're signing Gareth Bale, but we're in 2022 now. These stories to deflect away from terrible results just don't work when you're getting smacked up every month, like I said last night. But I look at the Man City game at the weekend and I go, hold on a minute. Ronaldo didn't play. He didn't play 1 minute. Rashford was terrible up front. Martial is injury prone. That team from minute 1 to minute 90 showed no desire or winning mentality and probably couldn't find it if it bit them on the arse. And then we're going to sell the player that can score goals and also is the most, probably in the current game, has the best winning mentality and ability to bounce back from being shot down than anyone. I mean, Ronaldo's been knocked down more times than an inflatable person that's been knocked down. Like, you know, he's got more bounce than a bouncy castle. So it feels weird to me. You know, why is Ronaldo going ridiculously didn't even start, says Nathan. It's just a ridiculously timed story that actually pours petrol onto the flames. It makes no sense to me. And look, I do want to talk about what Roy Keane said because I disagree with some of the things that he said. But what he did say is, and I completely agree with this, why in October are we saying that Ronaldo can go when 5 weeks ago we were saying he can't go? And he was on the bench 5 weeks ago. So having decided to keep him in the summer, and I'll tell you for free, Ronaldo's working hard in training and Ten Hag likes what he's doing in training. Why are we now deciding in October that a player can go when we've just been smashed by Man City? Roy Keane said he knows for a fact that there were offers on the table that Ronaldo wanted and United refused. So why did we not allow him to go in the summer and then not pick him now and then say he can go in January? It's weird. The whole thing is weird. It's very weird to me because he has got nothing to do with why we lost at the weekend. And he's probably a player that, certainly away to Everton, who defend really well, I would be picking Ronaldo because he's a good penalty box striker. And we need a player that can put the ball in the back of the net. So it just seems really weird to me that we've allowed this to happen. And again, I will keep saying this. I don't think the summer transfer window was as good as people think it is. I think it was pure desperation to sign Anthony and Casemiro at the end and try and rescue what was a terrible transfer window. And I think Ronaldo and the way that was dealt was a big part of that. But ultimately, if you're going to walk through a forest, you know, you've got your friends and family with you and you're the guy that's going to protect them. If you're going into a forest and you know there's a load of big polar bears that are going to attack you, before you go in that forest, if someone says, I'll give you 20 quid for your gun, and you go, take it, and then you walk into that forest without your gun, when you get mauled by those polar bears, whose fault is it? And I say that for a reason, because selling Ronaldo in January, when you've got Rashford who's not a striker, Martial who's ridiculously injury prone, and we're going to sell Ronaldo in January, and we won't get much money for him. unless you've got a really good striker coming in January, and let's not forget, the best player I can think that's available in January is going to be somebody like Cody Gakpo, who, like Anthony, will have to be afforded time. What are we trying to achieve this season? When you don't sell Ronaldo in the summer, you don't sell him in January, you keep him until next summer. We can't be letting him go in January. It's a ridiculously stupid story, but it's got credibility because it's of where it's coming from. And again, look, I want Ten Hag to succeed. I'm 100% behind Ten Hag, but I've got to be honest, this is naive if there's any truth in it. Cristiano Ronaldo should not be sat on the bench for Manchester United. I think that against Manchester City, I agree with it, but there's been other games where I disagree with it. So you don't force a player like Ronaldo, basically in a sentence, you don't force a player like Cristiano Ronaldo to stay at the club when he had offers. You don't force him to stay and then not use him. It's weird. That's weird. And this is probably one of the only things I would say about United and the coaching at the moment is the treatment of Ronaldo is disrespectful. I agree with what Roy Keane says. Now, Roy Keane's played with him. He knows him. He knows Man United like the back of his hand. If he's saying that, you've got to take notice. And I do think it's disrespectful, but not necessarily disrespectful in the way that some Ronaldo fans would say. I'm not saying he should start every game, but what I'm saying is you don't keep your player of the year, your top scorer, a legend of the club. You don't force them to stay and then not use them. That's disrespectful. Not starting him against Man City, I've got no problem with that because realistically, we weren't going to create many chances and we were looking to hit on the break with pace. So I understand why Ronaldo didn't start the derby, but it's disrespectful to force a player to stay and then not use them when they've got the reputation, ability and status of Cristiano Ronaldo. That's disrespectful. In fact, it's not disrespectful. It's ridiculously naive and silly. You should have just let him go. And I don't know what the truth is here. So I'm loath to say this is all on Erik Ten Hag because I actually think the situation is probably more simple and it's this. Ronaldo wants to go. Man United say to Ten Hag, we might let him go. What do you think? Well, you can let him go, but I need you to bring in a striker for me. Oh, we've got no money for that. Well, I can't let him go then. And I think that's maybe what's happened. So I don't necessarily want to put the blame on this for Erik Ten Hag because he's probably said, look, if he wants to go and you've got an offer, let him go. But you've got to buy me another striker because Martial's injury prone and Rashford's not really a striker. And then United have probably gone, well, we've got no more money for a striker. So in which case, if you're Ten Hag, you're not just... He'd be absolutely slaughtered if he'd let Ronaldo go in the summer and we didn't replace him. So this is why I defend Ten Hag, because I know what football club we're dealing with here. We're dealing with Manchester United. We're not dealing with Man City. If Pep let Ronaldo go, he'd probably get, Vlahovic or someone like that. So you can't blame Ten Hag specifically for not letting him go in the summer if the club weren't going to sort a replacement out. But the reality is, it's disrespectful as a club to force a player to stay and not use them. You can understand Ronaldo's frustration. He's proved himself, 18 goals in a shit side, player of the year. I want to go. You won't let me go. Now you're not picking me. What's all that about? So that's where I agree with the disrespect. Mark, same old story from these players. Can't stand up to be counted when it matters and act like they're great players for the club. Blame other players, says David T. The truth is he sells too many shirts and they want a bit more out of him commercially. It's why they signed him. Nothing to do with football itself, says Jim Jam. Get your thoughts in. No one forced him to stay. There were no offers, says JC. JC is apparently Cristiano Ronaldo's agent. Why don't you tell us who you really are? You're talking nonsense, mate. You're talking nonsense. I've mentioned this all summer. There are offers on the table for Ronaldo. This ridiculously naive story that seems to infect some of our fan base that no one wanted him. No one wanted him. That's why he's here. Are you an idiot? Are we communicating with a bunch of idiots? He scored 18 goals in the worst ever United side. He's player of the year. And you think there was no club that wanted Cristiano Ronaldo? What level of idiot are you? And anyway, Roy Keane knows Cristiano Ronaldo, and he said it on Sunday. I know for a fact there were offers that were rejected. So there were offers for Cristiano Ronaldo, and you'd have to be a complete fool if you think nobody wanted Cristiano Ronaldo. The reality is United wouldn't let him go. They wouldn't let him go. So I don't know where this nonsense is coming from that there wasn't any offers for Manchester United's Cristiano Ronaldo. The reality is United didn't want to let him go. So we're in this situation now. We can't let him go in January, but we're not picking him anyway. So it's a weird one, isn't it? This is what I mean. I don't know why we didn't let him go, because we're not picking him anyway. So it would seem, I just think it's absolutely typical Manchester United Football Club. In the transfer window, we are completely contradictory, stupid. Like, you're not allowed to go. You're not going. You're not going. We're not picking you, though. I mean, that's basically what we've done. You're definitely not going. We're not letting you go. We're not picking you either. We're paying him £500,000 a week to sit on the bench. Nobody's talking about that. Nobody's talking about that. We're paying him £500,000 a week to sit on the bench. What logic is that? Unless it's like Jim Jam says, we're trying to sell a few shirts. I mean, that is ridiculous. £500,000 a week to sit on the bench. What was the plan? What was the plan? So look, I will defend Ten Hag on this, because I think he probably said he can go if you get me a replacement. And United went, fuck that. We're not doing a replacement. So I think ultimately it's got to come back on the club. And Roy Keane's right. It's completely disrespectful to stop a player from leaving and then not pay them. And people would say, well, why shouldn't we do it? But look at it from a financial point of view then. Okay. United want 20 million for Ronaldo, yeah? And they want someone and they want someone to pay his wages. Obviously, Ronaldo wants that. Okay. So, I don't know, Napoli come along and say, we'll take Cristiano Ronaldo off you, but we're not giving you a fee, and we'll pay Ronaldo's wages. And United go, no, we want 20 million. Okay, we're not going to do that deal. Right, Ronaldo stays. We don't pick Ronaldo, and we pay him £500,000 a week. You'd be better letting him go to Napoli, because you save £2 million a month. Like, if we're not picking him, we should have let him go for free, because his wages are ridiculous. So this is what I mean about these idiots who say there was no offers. Whether there was offers for money or whether there was, we'll take him off your hands, they're still good for United. If I'm in charge of United, right, and Erik Ten Hag says to me, I'm not picking him for whatever reason, and Napoli say, we'll take him off your hands for free, I'm doing the deal, because otherwise I'm paying somebody £500,000 to sit on my bench. So this is what I mean when people say there was no offers. There were offers. And if you're going to stick him on the bench, we should have let him go for free, because you cannot pay £500,000. We've been paying Ronaldo £500,000 for 2 months and he's barely kicked a ball. That's ridiculous. It's trouble when the top management want the spotlight instead of letting the team be run by the manager. Ronaldo is just their scapegoat as always. Well, I feel that, Sub, you're right. I feel that Ronaldo is being held up as a scapegoat here, because it's really weird to me that United side goes out without Ronaldo, gets absolutely slaughtered in front of the world, and 24 hours later, Ronaldo's up for sale. It's got nothing to do with the Manchester derby. And I think United are just so out of touch that they think, let's say we're selling Ronaldo, and all the fans are going to go, yeah, this is it. Ten Hag, yeah, United, we're back. But what they don't realise is that the Manchester United fan base is more intelligent than the Manchester United board. And Ronaldo had nothing to do with Sunday. Harry Maguire had nothing to do with Sunday. You can't drop stories about Maguire or Ronaldo 24 hours later. Like bloody Jamie Carragher. Yeah, I think it's bullying. At the end of the day, Gary, I think Harry Maguire, especially on social media, when I look at the structure of social media at Manchester United, Harry Maguire's being bullied, Gary, isn't he? We're Manchester United. Yeah. Why are you talking about Harry Maguire 24 hours after a Manchester derby? He didn't play. It's got nothing to do with him, Jamie. Why are we talking about Cristiano Ronaldo being sold in January? He didn't play. And this is how lazy it gets. You get the same crappy stories when they've got nothing to do with what really matters to Manchester United fans, which is the Manchester derby on Sunday. Neither of those players played. And don't get me started on people bullying Harry Maguire 24 hours after a Manchester derby didn't play in, when Jamie Carragher has spent the last 6 weeks telling us how crap and small Martinez is. And those particular outlet has spent a lot of time talking about Paul Pogba, Martinez, Cristiano Ronaldo, Martial, for absolutely no reason. So they can jog on with this. And also, can I just say as well, this whole mental health thing that people keep talking about in relation to United players or Harry Maguire or whatever, I know for a fact that those particular players do not want to be hearing about their name and mental health. Because They want to get back in the United team because they're good players and they want to work hard to get back in the team. So all these people in the media who keep talking about mental health and our players, they don't actually want that. They don't want to be taught. They don't want to be spoken about at all. They just want to get their head down and get back into the team. So this constant regurgitation of a story that has got nothing to do with United fans anyway. We need to just stop the deflection. They didn't even play on Sunday. Let's focus on what happened on Sunday. Spare a thought for Lindelof's state of mind and mental health, or does it not matter, says Nick Peake. Look, no, there is no United player who's not in the team at the moment that wants to be talked about in the press about their mental health. They are professional footballers who've been in the game for years and appreciate that you can have ups and downs. All those players want, who are not in the team, whether it's Luke Shaw, Harry Maguire, Victor Lindelof, they want to get their head down, force their way back into the team, or leave. That's what they want to do. They don't want to be talked about in the press every day about bullying or mental health or anything like that, because that won't get them back in the team. They don't want a sympathy vote. So this is just the media trying to come up with stories, and they need to shut up about it. Sean King, thank you very much. Welcome to the Members Club. Unless one of those players comes out and says, I'm really struggling, which is what Jesse Lingard did a year ago, which, you know, did nothing for him getting back into the team. He was just acknowledging the fact that he gets down and stuff. What's that got to do with getting back into the Man United team? And I know that for a fact. That many United players just want to get on with it and get back in the team and get their career back and running. And if they can't do that, they'll ask for a move, which is what normal behaviour is. But taking it back to the Manchester derby, we've said what we've said about Ronaldo. I think it's ridiculous. But taking it back to the Manchester derby, there was this story that came out from Neil Custis where he said a furious half-time rant from Bruno Fernandes and Lisandro Martinez at the Manchester derby was so loud it could have been heard down the corridor. Can I just say, I don't care. Absolutely do not care about this. Is this meant to make United fans go, ooh, yeah, there's my chest. Ooh, I'm a red. You know, what we're 4-0 down, lads. That should have been, that. You know, I know it was only a YouTube game, but that little speech I did about Russell Crowe, which was laughable, really, that was before the game kicked off. That was basically the crowd's against us, everyone's against us, you've got to win the crowd, you've got to go out there, you've got to run. You know, if they put the ball in the back of the net, you get the ball, you go again. You know, that was before the game. What point is that at half-time? I mean, I despair at these types of stories because I'm like, what are we supposed to do with that? Love your content, Mark. Keep up the great work, says Show. What are we supposed to do with that? Ooh, passion. That's what it is. Passion. I don't know why I'm doing that. Passion. It's passion. Ooh, we're passion monsters. You've just played like a bunch of dead snails for 45 minutes, and now you've had a sniff of sneak. You've got a bit of energy. You've got a bit of passion. What the hell does that mean at half time? That they were shouting so loud, I could hear them down the corridor. I was trying to listen to something else. I couldn't listen to it because I could just hear shouting. You know, we're 4-0 down. It's gone. Save your voice. It's over. Shouting at your players at 4-0. It's gone, lads. And don't worry about the second half because Man City are putting their slippers on. These things should be happening before the game, not at half time. We've got it all wrong. We wait to be battered before we respond. Got to be ready to throw the first punch. We're naive. One loss and the same old United reappears. It's clear it never left, says Chris Judge. The hypocrisy, hating Ronaldo while supporting Martial, who also wanted to leave 6 months ago, treating one player different because of agendas, says Arjun. Well, it's interesting. I want to talk about Casemiro because I think the Ronaldo thing, I don't blame Ten Hag. I think the club have handled that badly. We've seen with Wan-Bissaka that Ten Hag wanted to sell him and the club said no. Ten Hag may well have said, let Ronaldo go, he wants to go, get me a striker in, and the club said no, and then you end up with this stupid situation. So I think it's hard to blame Ten Hag about the Ronaldo situation, and he's always spoke glowingly about Ronaldo. But people will say again, you're just defending Ten Hag 100%. So I'm going to give you a story where I don't defend Ten Hag. It's the one thing. I'm going to give it you in a minute. But before I do that, Fabrizio Romano has spoken about Martial and basically said that in relation to a contract, Martial just wants to focus on the now and see how much game time he gets before he makes a decision about a new contract. Well, I would say that works both ways. Man United should not be stood there in front of Martial saying, give us his signature. We should be saying, we want to see how long you can stay fit before we give you a new contract. So I don't mind Martial saying, I want to wait and see whether I want to sign a new contract to see whether I'm starting striker or not. But let's not forget, in relation to the previous chat there, That is the situation with Martial. He refused to stay in January. Rangnick wanted him to stay. He said no. I know he spent most of the time injured for Sevilla, but we had no strikers. It was who was it who kept us afloat between January and May? Was it Marcus Rashford? No. Was it Cavani? No. Was it Mason Greenwood? No. Was it Martial? No. And Cristiano Ronaldo, he was the one playing twice a week, scoring the goals. So, you know, people have a very short memory. Martial did not want to stay. Now, I don't disagree with him not wanting to stay. He'd been treated like shit, but short memories are right. Martial has wanted to leave United for a very long time. The only reason he's changed his mind is because Ten Hag changed it. So let's not pretend that Martial's the future. He might not want to stay. And God, the most important thing is, when Ten Hag does his press conference tomorrow, are you concerned that he might say, Martial's had another injury, he's out for a month? I think Martial's like Cavani for me at the moment. I don't know from game to game whether he's going to be fit, because he seems to be fit, and then the next press conference, Ten Hag will go, yeah, he's had a setback. So Martial is not anywhere near the solution at the moment. One, he's got to get in the team and stay in the team, and two, he's got to stay fit. So yeah, again, the striking options of Manchester United do panic me enough. We've got a player that we've kept on £500,000 a week and we put him on the bench. We've got another player who can't stay fit, and then we've got Rashford, who for me is best off the left. Ronaldo come to Arsenal and join the Arteta revolution. Next year we're challenging for the Champions League. Zayn, I think, you know, I actually think that Chelsea will go back in for him and United will go, we're not selling to a Premier League club. But how can you keep a player on the bench and then not let him play for another team? This is my issue. Along with the players, it was also disappointing to see Erik Ten Hag had no tactical upper hand before the match, like the way Pep replaced centre-backs for Rashford, says Sub. Look, it's Manchester derby, we got spanked. We got humiliated. Tactically, Ten Hag got treated like a little boy. Basically, Pep Guardiola was there like that. You know, get back in your box, get back in your playpen. You can't compete with me. I've not heard anybody say that, and I don't want to say it because I want Ten Hag to be successful and I do back him. But if you want the blunt answer, Pep Guardiola absolutely schooled Ten Hag on Sunday. And I've not really heard it, and I've not wanted to say it, and I know you don't want to say it, and I've not really heard any pundits say it really. But that's what happened. Our plan was destroyed in the first 5 minutes, and Rashford's just got pace. And he played two centre-backs, end of plan. Like, if you can't get Rashford in behind on pace because the other centre-backs are quicker than him, what does he do? He can't control the ball, he can't hold it up, he can't link the play, he's no good in the air. That was over. And that was just one aspect of the game. I love Ronaldo and he's a legend. I think we should have honoured his request. Irreplaceable, I know, but his contract is up as well. Loving my sneaks, as TG. We should have done it in the summer, mate. We should have done it in the summer. That's what I'm saying. It's ridiculous. We should have let him go in the summer. He wanted to go. Offers on the table. We should have let him go. We're now sticking him on the bench, paying him £500,000 a week and not using him. It's disrespectful. It is disrespectful. We shouldn't be doing that. It'd be disrespectful to Rooney. Imagine if Rooney said, look, I'm not getting in the team anymore. I want to go somewhere else. And we go, no. And then we don't pick him. It's ridiculous. Because you'd still be paying Rooney massive wages as well. You can't do that. It's just another kick in the nuts for Manchester United's reputation when it comes to dealing with players and signing players and letting players go. We're just terrible at it. But let's not go on over old rope. You're going to get a world exclusive here. And I'll be interested to see what people think. I'm going to criticise Erik Ten Hag. And I don't do this. So this is a world first for me. I don't criticise him in a harsh way, but I am actually going to do it. And part of it's because people say you live up his arse and you're always backing him and this, that and the other. And how can you when you've just been destroyed like that and the Brentford game? There's got to be some things he's doing wrong that you don't agree with that you're not mentioning. So look, first disclaimer, I'm 100% behind Ten Hag. I think he's the right man. I think he's got similarities with the fan base. I think he knows what needs to be done. And ultimately, he probably won't be able to do it because the club won't let him. So I'll always say that. I think he is the right man. He might not be the right man, but I really do think he is. But I think there has been some naivety. And I think the biggest thing, and we can all find examples, but I think the biggest thing for me where he's been really naive is Casemiro. I've took my time thinking about this. And I did say on Sunday that whatever team he picks, I'll back it. But I did also say in the preview, Casemiro has to start. So I don't want to sit here and say, I told you so, because I know a lot of the fan base said that. But I do feel that you can't just say in the preview, Casemiro's got to start. And then when he doesn't start and you get beat 6-3, you just go, oh, well, the manager didn't pick him, let's move on. You have to dissect that a little bit. And I've got to be honest, I think the treatment of Casemiro is ridiculous. And you have got to put that at Erik ten Hag's feet. Now, I've consistently said, I think this transfer is dodgy. I don't think Ten Hag actually wanted him because he's a brilliant player. And if you said to me, and I've wanted a CDM at the club for years, then Casemiro would be top of the list if we said, what CDM do you want? I'd say Fabinho, Casemiro, Rodri, players like, he'd definitely be in the top 5 of Kimmich. You know, he'd definitely be in the top 5 I would want. So I absolutely cannot sit here and say Casemiro is a bad signing. I think it's the right signing. I just don't think it's what Ten Hag wanted. I think Ten Hag wanted De Jong and the club couldn't get him, so they said, we'll get you Casemiro. And he went, well, I want a PS5, but I will take the Xbox. And then he's not opened it and used it because it's not the PS5. De Jong would have gone straight into that team, straight away. What was the first game after we bought Casemiro? I think it was Liverpool. He would have played that game. So he's not used him. And I think that the excuse for not using Casemiro just doesn't wash. Well, McTominay's been playing well, so I've played McTominay. Like, we've not used Casemiro at all. We knew Man City was coming up after the international break. Casemiro's been here about 6 weeks. People talk about match fitness. He's not playing. How can he get match fitness when he's not giving him game time? And with all due respect to Scott McTominay, he will never be Casemiro. Casemiro's only 5 years older than McTominay. How many Champions Leagues has he won? How many caps for Brazil has he got? How many times did he play for Real Madrid? Scott McTominay will never be Casemiro. He will never be 50% of Casemiro. So all this, well, McTominay deserves his place and that's why. There's got to be a plan in place that by the Man City game, Casemiro is going to be my holding midfielder. And he hasn't done that. He's just gone every week. McTominay's playing well. He's playing the next game. He's playing the next game. And there's an inevitability. There was an inevitability that the way this would get resolved was with another smashing. Because if you buy Casemiro for 60 million and then you stick him on the bench every game until McTominay fucks up, you're just waiting to fuck up, and then you've got to put Casemiro in the team and wait for him to adjust. So Casemiro, by the time he actually adjusts to Man United, the World Cup will happen. He's not going to go straight into the team against Everton and be world-class Casemiro. He's going to need 2 or 3 games to get going. So I think where Ten Hag's made a mistake here is that he's just sat back with Casemiro on the bench and said, you'll get your chance when he plays shit. And actually what he should have done is gone, Scott McTominay's never going to be Casemiro. I've got to gradually get Casemiro in this team so he's firing for the Manchester derby. So basically, he should have been starting him against a Southampton or a Leicester. He should have been giving him more and more minutes to get him ready for Man City. And he hasn't. He's just gone, McTominay's playing well, the team's winning, you can sit on the bench. And what we've ended up with now is McTominay puts in a dreadful performance against Manchester City and Casemiro comes on and looks rusty. So we've got a crap McTominay and a crap Casemiro now. And what we should have done is, you've spent £60 million on one of the best CDMs in the world and he's been sat on the bench for 6 weeks. When you put it like that, I think that's a big mistake. We've spent £60 million on one of the best CDMs in the world, and he spent 6 weeks sat on the bench waiting for a performance from McTominay like that so he can get his chance, and over the next few weeks he's going to be rusty. So I think the way that Ten Hag has handled the Casemiro thing is a criticism. I've got to say it. So people have been asking about it. That's the one that I've got to say that if there's one thing about Ten Hag, and like I say, I 100% back him. I think he's the right man. But the Casemiro thing's just weird. And it leads me to, see, I'm going to defend Ten Hag now. It leads me to go, he clearly didn't want this player. Because if it was De Jong, he'd have been straight in against Liverpool and McTominay would have gone to the bench. So there's a hypocrisy, basically, because we get the excuse that Casemiro's not in the team because he's not match fit. Casemiro's not in the team because McTominay's been playing well. But if we'd bought Frankie de Jong and he'd gone straight into the team, so not match fit, McTominay's been playing well, wouldn't have meant anything if de Jong had been bought. So sometimes you just got to scratch the surface. Casemiro's not in the team because I just don't think he's the player that Ten Hag really wanted. So much so that he'd rather pick an informed McTominay over Casemiro. And that's the bottom line, isn't it? The reality is he'd rather pick an informed Scott McTominay than a world-class Casemiro. If you buy a player for £60 million, who's one of the best CDMs in the world, he's just been man of the match in a Champions League final a few weeks before, you buy a player like that, and then you go, you're not starting because this guy, who's pretty average, is playing well at the moment. And I'm going to gamble points on the guy who's average over you. I mean, that's basically what we've done for 6 weeks. So I know picking a winning team is a nice idea, but I don't agree with it. I can't argue with it, but I don't agree with it. Because you can win with better players on the bench and worse players in the first 11. But at some point, you've got to get your best players on the pitch. And you can't wait for results like Sunday to do that. You've got to be a little bit braver than that. Anthony came straight into the team. Eriksen came straight into the team. So, look, I do, if you want me to be critical of anything that Ten Hag's done, I find the Casemiro one odd. Really odd. But I'll defend Ten Hag again and say I just don't think it was the player he wanted. I think it was a club signing. I think it was a desperation signing. And I think that how do you go from Rabiot for 15 million to Casemiro for 60? And let's not forget, we didn't buy Rabiot. Murta flew to Turin, didn't buy him because of wage demands. Casemiro has cost us tens of £1 million more. So why did we go from Rabiot to Casemiro? Massive, massive increase in cost. We went from Rabiot to Casemiro because Sir Jim Radcliffe said he'd like to buy Man United and the Glazers shit themselves. That's what happened there. Casemiro is going to be the new Donny, says Mac. No, I disagree. I think ultimately Casemiro is going to end up in the team now. He has to start. JC says we shouldn't reward good performances. You're a bit of an idiot, JC. That's your second one. I don't know. No, you shouldn't reward good performances like you are. So if JC was manager of Manchester United or manager of your local McDonald's, if you've got a crap player performing well and you've got a better player on the bench, you're just going to keep playing that player every week until you get stuffed. That's not how you be elite manager, mate. I'm sorry. You've got to be more ruthless than that. Of course, you might want to play that player that's playing well at home when you're playing Bournemouth. But when you've got Man City coming up in a month's time, you better get that world-class player into your team and ready by then. Because ultimately, if you don't, what happens on Sunday is going to happen. You can't just reward good performances week in, week out. Football is about... So basically, Lionel Messi, yeah? Lionel Messi has a bit of a longer break after the World Cup and misses the first 2 games of the season, yeah? You've got a winger who's nowhere near as good as Messi, but he starts the season really well. You're going to keep benching Messi every week until he has a bad game. That's what I'm talking about. Casemiro will end up in this team one way or another. But the only way he's going to get in that team, if you're going to keep picking the players that win, is when they actually have a really bad performance, and then it's going to lose you 3 points. So, no, I think as an elite manager, you've got to have a plan. If McTominay's out of the team for the Manchester derby, what's he going to do? Put a transfer request in. You take him in the office and you say, Scott, you've played really well this season, but I've spent £60 million on Casemiro. He's one of my signings, and I'm playing him in the Manchester derby. You'll be playing on Thursday night, and the place is up for grabs, but I've bought this player. He's ready to go. I'm putting him in the team. If Scott McTominay says to me, I'm not happy, Gaffer, well, look, I'm glad you're not happy. Go out there and show me why I'm wrong. But, I'm doing this. That's why you've got players like Kevin De Bruyne, and that's why you've got players like James Ward-Prowse. Like, are you going to keep picking James Ward-Prowse because he's playing well and stick Kevin De Bruyne on the bench? Look, JC's entitled to his opinion. Some people would agree with him, some people wouldn't. But for me, if I'm going into a Manchester derby and James Ward-Prowse has been playing well for me in the midfield and I've got Kevin De Bruyne on the bench, I'm sorry, James Ward-Prowse is going on the bench and Kevin De Bruyne is coming in because Kevin De Bruyne's a better player and I need to win that game. some people would say, no, I wouldn't change it. James Ward-Prowse has been playing well. Kevin De Bruyne can earn his place back in the team. Oh, I've just been smacked up 6-3. Who's right? Different manager styles, I suppose, but, you know. How can we sell Ronaldo? He's 37 and would cost between 300k and 400k a week at 37. You're having a laugh, says Rich. I don't know what that means. Casemiro didn't play in the Dutch league, so Ten Hag doesn't trust him, says the Ferocious. United have a soft underbelly. I mean, as I say, remember my preview. We're talking about McTominay or Casemiro. Personally, I'd have played them both. Bruno as a false nine and Eriksen in behind him. So I wouldn't have dropped McTominay anyway. I would have played them both. Hi Mark, big love from Australia. When Tony Martial and Rashford 100%, who do you feel starts out of those two plus Sancho, Anthony? Do you feel as though we should try Eriksen in the number 10? Says Seb. Well, I'm previewing the game against Ammonia on Thursday at 2 o'clock today. Quite interesting, actually. We're doing some notes for it with my cup of tea this morning. So 2 o'clock, we're going to preview that game. I'm really hoping Donny van de Beek's back fit. We really need Donny van de Beek fit to take a look at him, because Eriksen and Bruno, very good players, but there needs to be some rotation there, and Donny's the only one who can do it. So hopefully Donny will be back. But to answer your question, I don't know what anybody else thinks, let me know. Rashford or Martial up front? Martial every day of the week. Rashford goes to the left for me. Rashford should be fighting with Sancho. Rashford's not a forward. He's not a forward. And look, I'm always very defensive of Rashford. Maxime, welcome to the Members Club. Thank you very much for joining. If you want to be a member of the United Stand Members Club and get a badge next to your name and exclusive content, don't forget to check out the exclusive content. It's there to be watched if you're a member. Click the join button. Anthony Martinez, Eriksen, Frankie de Jong, all know the system. Casemiro, that is all, says Daniel Kirk. Oh yeah, Anthony knows the system, doesn't he? Didn't track back and help Delo. Yeah, he really knows the system. Eriksen really knows how to play as a holding midfielder against Man City. That worked really well. What system are we talking about, Daniel? We're counter-attacking. That's not a Ten Hag system. So, I think you make a good point, but only if we're playing like Ajax did. We're not playing like Ajax did. We're playing counter-attacking football. So, we're playing defensive counter-attacking football. I think Casemiro would know how to do that. Morning, Mark. A midfield of Donny and Casemiro, says Mikael Roach. Look, I would play Martial up front or Ronaldo up front. The reason I wouldn't play Rashford up front is because most of these good things he's done to win Player of the Month came from the left. When we brought Ronaldo on against Arsenal, he went to the left and he was really, really good. I like Rashford running from the left, angling his run and beating the offside trap. Playing as a centre-forward, how many times have we got him in one-on-one? I mean, we played Leicester with Johnny Evans at the back and we couldn't get him in one-on-one. So, look, Marcus Rashford's playing up front to stretch the defence for his pace, but it very rarely works. I put Rashford on the left. Rashford can't win headers. He can't win 50-50s. He doesn't seem to be able to run around as much and press as much. I feel that Marcus Rashford, there's something there that's a problem. I don't know whether it's the back thing. I remember Van Persie having something similar and said it's a really bad injury that plays with your head for a bit. I don't know whether it's a shoulder thing. Rashford's a winger. Putting him up front to, get physical with centre-backs, I don't think he's capable of doing that. So Martial for me up front or Ronaldo, put Rashford back on the wing. And I think you'll get more out of Rashford there. Inform McTominay is worse than a rusty Casemiro, says the manager. And do you think because we have obvious lack of talent on high wages, they will stay or some will leave due to the World Cup, says Sinead? I think there's going to be some knocks on the door in January, yeah. And I think there's going to be some come and have a meeting with me from Ten Hag in January with some players. There has to be. This is not a headline. This is not a headline if a player wants to leave or Ten Hag wants to sell a player. We've just come off the worst Premier League season we've ever had. We've played 7 Premier League games. We've lost 3. If we lose against Everton next week, he's lost 50% of his Premier League games. That Everton game next week's huge. So, we're not in a good position. We're trying to rebuild from a really bad position. And I think maybe the 4 wins in a row, maybe even I fell into the trap that I thought we were on our way back from a really bad season. Not back to winning titles. We've still got mainly the squad that was crap last year. So there has to be some knocking on the doors from people wanting to leave because they're not part of the plans. And there's got to be some come to my office, I want you to go, from Erik Ten Hag. That's natural. It's not sensationalist if in January or in March there's a story that leaks out that Luke Shaw's up for sale, or Marcus Rashford's not going to sign a new contract, or Harry Maguire's up for sale, or Lindelof's up for sale, or, you know. But on the other hand, Luke Shaw gets a new contract, Marcus Rashford gets a new contract, Harry Maguire's playing well. All those things can happen. Ten Hag just has to figure out what. But what can't happen is in a year's time, you've still got all these players. Like, some of them have to go. Donny van der Beek, if he doesn't take his opportunity in the next 6 weeks, he's going to be knocking on the door in January. Of course he is. What the hell is up with Donny? Is something sinister happening with him? Can you shed some light? I don't know, Nickette. I don't know. It was so weird that Rashford starts in the Manchester derby and Martial's on the bench and then Donny's not. He was the one that was meant to be further ahead. I don't know what the injury is with Donny van der Beek, but he was injured a lot at Everton. And he's now injured a lot at United. So most of 2022, he's been injured. I mean, that beyond the question marks about whether he's good enough, he's now become injury prone. So, look, I'll say what I say about Donny. If he's not fit for Thursday and he's not ready to challenge this month, he's gone. He's in the last, this next month before the World Cup is his last chance. If he's not fit, he's going to go, isn't he? Looking at Casemiro and Ronaldo sat on the bench yesterday, do you think his mentality is getting affected by Ronaldo can leave next season, but he's here longer? Says Sub. Casemiro is such a brilliant player. Like, I don't know whether you saw the clip of him in the dressing room with Thiago Silva for Brazil. Casemiro will start for Brazil in a month's time, or 6 weeks' time. Casemiro will start for Brazil in the World Cup, and they're one of the favourites to win the World Cup. He's sat on the bench in a Manchester derby. It's wrong. It's wrong. And I just wonder if there's a story behind this, that Man United went and bought a player that Ten Hag was like, it's not really the player I want, and maybe there's a little bit of conflict there. I don't know, but he's got it. The thing is, he's got to come in the team now, and I think when he comes into the team now, he'll keep his place, and he's got to keep his place. You can't play Manchester City and not have a CDM. Like, we couldn't pick up the midfield runners. You can't do it. Casemiro does look very rusty, but he shouldn't. Whose fault is he? He's rusty. This is what I mean. This is what I mean. He's been here 6 weeks and we've just sat him on the bench. He needed to be getting into that team. Like, he needs game time. He needed to be put in that team. You don't buy one of the best CDMs in the world for 60 million quid and then sit him on the bench for 6 weeks, waiting for a shit result so that you can give him a chance. It should have been handled better, in my opinion. Anyway, look, back at 2 o'clock for the preview for the Europa League game on Thursday. Quite interesting as we look into that. Thanks everyone for watching. Make sure you smash a like on the video and subscribe. We're live at 7 o'clock tonight because I'm doing Rangers Liverpool Champions League watch along on That's Football for 8 o'clock. So make sure you're tuning in at 7. Thanks everyone who's watching. Thanks to the new members. You can do that by clicking the join button. Thanks for supporting the channel as always. And yeah, take care everyone. Smash a like and I'll speak to you all in a bit.